Salt is a commodity that is very, very costly. It's the white gold of prehistory. And at Rasool, you have the largest deposits of salt in the entire southern Levant, right on the doorstep.
The wasteland around Rasool ran down to the salt-rich waters of the Dead Sea. The beaches were already an ancient salt mine. Salt made possible the mass preserving of foods like olives and fish. Now, they could be traded hundreds of kilometers to new markets. With donkeys, they could send large, heavy loads to their partners as far away as Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Once you produce industrial quantities of goods, you have to keep track of them. For the first time, people aren't dealing with small amounts of material that they're producing within their household for use by their household. They're producing large numbers of goods.
Amazingly, they ran their whole economy with no money and no written numbers.
When you're trying to work out how these commodities are to be moved around and who is to get them, the beginning of record keeping is symbolic. For a measure of grain, you developed a small symbol. For a measure of sheep, you developed a symbol of sheep. These first tokens are small clay counters, if you will. And the earliest records, from what we can tell, are records of combinations of these tokens, kept together, slapped together in a ball of clay, and sealed with the stamp seal of one of the signifying authorities.
When the goods have been delivered, the contract is checked by cracking open the clay balls.
This is the precursor to the bureaucratic systems of later ages.
The invention of these tokens laid the very first tentative foundations for written language. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about this way of life was a location. How did they survive in the middle of a desert?
Everything in the Middle East is about water. All agriculture exists only because of requirements of water. The key issue in the South Jordan Valley, where Talalat Rasool is located, is that there is very little rainfall. To live, flourish and develop a major complicated society in this part of the world, you had to add water. The only way you could add water was through irrigation.
The Rasoulians were extraordinary pioneers. Faced with a hostile environment, they did not surrender. Instead, they changed it. They built a whole network of irrigation channels, crafted to follow the slope of the hills. It was an enormous imaginative achievement.
These canals are many kilometres long. This is not something that 10 men and a dog do. This is something that hundreds, if not thousands, of people would have had to do.
For the first time ever, the Rasoulians brought everyone together on a single large project.
It's commonly thought that the pyramids are the first great evidence for complex society. But at Rasool, 2,000 years before the pyramids, we have clear evidence of organised society. In Egypt, the great emphasis is on irrigation, as though it was unique to Egypt. We have the same evidence for irrigation, probably more extensive if it comes to that, probably 1,000 years earlier than they have in Egypt.
The system must have been controlled by local leaders, an elite of families enriched by trade. Thousands of workers had to be organised in a peaceful society. There's no evidence of armies or squads of slaves. So how did the leaders inspire the ordinary people to follow their plan? The answer is painted on a wall. This fresco is now called the Star of Rasul. It was found on the wall of a family shrine. This motif appears nowhere else. A central star glowing with colour. Groups of masked figures with imaginary heads. It's a Stone Age dream. Using the Rasulian art, Stephen Burke formed a picture of the town's social order. It was held together by religion. And this religion had a social purpose.
The priests begin to set themselves off as something special, something elite. These people tell you what the gods want done. And of course, if they're in the service of the great priestly families, the great agricultural families, these are the people that allow society to be run in the way that the powerful families dictate. What we're seeing effectively is the transition from personal gods to state gods, from the god of your home, the god of your clan, to the god of your city. In a nutshell, what we think goes on is that people are able to be mobilised by their leaders because they believe that the gods sanction it, the gods will it, indeed the gods demand it.
Water was the centre of their lives and their faith. Perhaps the star was a vision of order, where worshippers came together as a society. They were united in faith. Far away in Europe, the Stone Age farmers were now part of the landscape. Here, on the Atlantic fringe, the vast natural world was full of mystery. People's religion reached out to the elements. The sun, moon, and stars that shone on the life-giving earth and water. They were awed by birth and death and the changing seasons. There were no organised elites. They lived together in small communities. Their beliefs sprang from the meeting of incoming farmers and local hunter-gatherers. These people built a grand project. Over 2,000 years, they erected massive standing stones in forest clearings across Europe. Some monuments took generations to construct. Later, another wave of incoming farmers brought in different beliefs. They smashed the great stones down, turning them into underground burial chambers.